Hey everybody, Dr. Shawn Talbott here. Today on Mental Mug, we're going to be talking about could there be a type of bacteria that could keep you lean? And conversely, could there be a type of bacteria that makes you more likely to gain weight or make it harder for you to lose weight? Yes, that is true. And I'm going to unpack that for you with this question that was submitted. And it says, briefly, please describe the Firmicutes and Bacteroidetes balance and how this can impact the body. So, when we talk about the microbiome, we can talk about the trillions of individual bacteria that are there. We can talk about the tens of thousands of different species that are there. But we can also talk about the two main families of bacteria that are there. So we can break down the entire trillions of bacteria in the microbiome pretty broadly into two families. One family is called Firmicutes. One family is called Bacteroidetes. And there's good and bad bacteria in both of those families. But when we break them down that broadly, the reason that we do that is that Firmicutes are really good at harvesting calories from the food that we eat, and Bacteroides are less good at doing that. They're less efficient calorie harvesters. And so what that means is that if you have a predominance of Firmicutes in your microbiome, you're more likely to get a higher amount of calories out of every single meal that you eat. So you can harvest those calories and either burn them, which would be a good thing, or more likely store them as body fat. If you have a percentage or a high proportion of Bacteroides, you're less good at doing that, so you're less likely to get calories out of your food, and you might be the kind of person that can eat whatever you want and not really gain weight. You have a lot of Firmicutes, on the other hand, you might be the kind of person that just looks at that piece of chocolate cake and you gain weight because of that, right? We all know those people. Some people can eat whatever they want, and it seems like they have a metabolism that never quits, and other people who have a, quote-unquote slow metabolism and gain weight readily and have problems losing weight. They really hold on to their weight. And it could be because of differences in the ratio of Firmicutes to Bacteroides that you have. So we've known this sort of metabolically for over a decade now. There were some really good animal studies that showed that you could manipulate this. And if you could lower the Firmicutes, you make it less likely that those animals gain weight, or more likely that they'll lose weight, or you could raise the Bacteroides to do the same thing. So, less Firmicutes associated with leanness, more Bacteroides associated with leanness, and, vice versa, being associated with obesity. And so the question has always been, could we do that in humans? Could we lower the Firmicutes in humans to help people lose weight? And could we raise the Bacteroides in humans to help people lose weight and or not gain weight? And that's an important consideration, because a lot of times it's easy to help people lose weight, but then they gain the weight right back. And so if we could modulate their microbiome so it makes it both easier for them to lose weight and less likely for them to gain the weight back, that would be a home run. And that's exactly what it seems like is possible. My group has actually done some of these trials where we've done interventions. We've given subjects, prebiotic fibers and different probiotic strains and, different meal replacements and, fruit and vegetable extracts and things like that to change the microbiome. And sometimes we'll see changes in bacteria that are involved in your immune system, some that are involved in your mental wellness. But we have observed a change in that ratio of Firmicutes. So just a small change will actually be very, very beneficial for people. So if you can lower Firmicutes a little bit and raise Bacteroides a little bit, the combined effect of changing that overall ratio can be very, very meaningful. And the experience for that person ends up being that they say, you know what? I haven't changed anything, and now all of a sudden I'm losing weight. It's like a switch got flipped, and now I'm losing weight. Or now I'm able to eat normally and don't have to sort of, count every calorie, and I don't seem to be gaining the weight back. And the person that this works best for is the person that is already eating a good diet. They're already getting their fruits and vegetables. They're already, getting their fiber. They're getting their lean proteins. They're getting their healthy fats. They're avoiding processed foods, right? They're doing all the right things. They're also physically active, right? They might not necessarily be exercising or training, but they're moving their bodies. They're getting their 8 hours of sleep, right? Because we know that lack of sleep is associated with weight gain because of how it changes your metabolism. So they're doing all the right things, but an imbalanced or dysbiotic microbiome could be putting the brake on all of their good behaviors. And so if you can remove that obstacle, if you can remove that disruption, having too many firmicutes and not enough Bacteroides, and put that back in the right direction, then it's almost like their good, healthy lifestyle gains more traction, right? Let me tell you what it's not. It's not changing your F to B, Firmicutes to Bacteroides ratio. FB ratio is how we talk about that. You don't just change that and then eat cheeseburgers and think that you're going to lose weight because of that, right? It doesn't work that way. It seems like that change in the F to B ratio is permissive to help you lose the weight if that's what you're trying to do. And so it can be very effective for people. So we've seen it in animal studies. We've seen it in human studies. Here's the trick, though. Once you make that modulation, right, you've changed the F to B ratio in a positive sort of anti-obesity or anti-weight gain direction, you have to maintain that. It's not a one and done sort of a thing. It's a do it, change that ratio, but then you have to keep sort of feeding that system. And the way that you keep the firmicutes low and the Bacteroides high is by eating a diet that is not dense in calories, right? So, you're avoiding the processed foods, you're eating calorie, non-dense foods like fruits and vegetables, you're eating lean proteins. And so I think that this F to B ratio is really important. It's not a silver bullet, but it really is something that can help people gain traction in their overall program. And then once they do that, once you've gotten that kickstart, so to speak, and then you maintain it with that healthy lifestyle, I think it can be very beneficial for a lot of people. So there are lean bacteria, there are fat bacteria, and we know that we can change those with the right sorts of natural dietary regimens. Okay? Thanks. See you next time.